Ujian terbuka promosi doktor untuk saudari Munmun Gupta akan segera dimulai. Dekan Fakultas Pendidikan dan Bahasa, promotor, co-promotor, dan para penguji akan memasuki ruangan. Hadirin dimohon berdiri. Sebelum acara dimulai, Pastor Atmajaya akan memimpin doa. Doa akan dipimpin oleh Bruder Doktor Gregorius Bambang Nugroho. Bapak, Ibu, dan saudara-saudari, saya mohon izin untuk memimpin doa dengan cara Katolik bagi Bapak, Ibu, dan saudara-saudari yang berkeyakinan lain dapat berdoa sesuai dengan agama dan keyakinannya. Dalam nama Bapa dan Putra dan Roh Kudus, amin. Ya Tuhan, kami bersama berhimpun di hadapan-Mu untuk mengadakan ujian terbuka promosi Doktor Munmun Gupta. Datanglah di tengah-tengah kami, tinggallah bersama kami, dan terangilah hati kami. Berilah kami cahaya dan kekuatan untuk mengenal kehendak-Mu dan menjadikan kehendak kami, serta untuk mengamalkannya di dalam hidup kami sehari-hari. Bimbinglah kami dengan kebijaksanaan-Mu, dan tolonglah kami dengan kekuatan-Mu, karena Engkaulah yang dimuliakan. Buatlah kami setia pada yang benar. Bantulah kami untuk menghargai sesama, dan janganlah Kau izinkan kami disesatkan oleh ketidaktahuan dan kesembronoan kami. Akhirnya, ya Tuhan, persatukanlah kami di dalam ruangan ini dengan diri-Mu dalam ikatan kasih. Terpujilah Engkau, kini dan sepanjang segala masa. Amin. Dalam nama Bapa, Putra, dan Roh Kudus. Amin. Hadirin yang kami muliakan, sidang ujian terbuka promosi doktor untuk saudari Munmun Gupta akan dibuka oleh Ketua Sidang, Dekan Fakultas Pendidikan dan Bahasa, Dr. Luciana. Kami persilahkan. Hadirin dimohon untuk duduk.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby officially open the public academic session for the promotion of the doctoral candidate in applied English linguistics, Ms. Munmun Gupta. The examining board is composed of the dissertation advisor, Professor Dr. Setiono Sugiharto from Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia, the co-advisor, Ibu Yanti Ph.D. from Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia, and 3 other examiners, Professor Safnil Arsyad M.A. Ph.D. from Bengkulu University, Professor Dr. Bambang Kaswanti Purwo from Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia, and Dr. Engliana M.Hum from Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia. Ms. Munmun Gupta. As the Dean of Faculty of Education and Languages, I would like to ask you whether you are both physically and mentally prepared to defend your dissertation. Thank you. Now I'm going to read Ms. Munmun Gupta's brief biodata. Ms. Gupta earned her master's from University Christchurch, College India, Kanpur, and she completed her bachelor degree also at the same university, and right now she's in the process of doing the last stage of her study at Applied English Linguistics at Atmajaya Catholic University. She has been prolific in having several academic publications, such as Translanguaging in Indian Fiction from John Benjamin Publishing Company, Cultural Communicative Styles, The Case of India and Indonesia, International Journal of Society and Culture and Language, Indian Parents' Perspective of Maintaining Heritage Language in the Metropolitan Jakarta, Indonesian Journal of English Language Teaching. She has also attended several conferences and also had experience as the head of English Department, academic coordinator in the College Indonesia up to 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, the exam will now start and will last for an hour. I would like to begin by asking Ms. Munmun Gupta to present a summary of her findings entitled Translinguistic Authenticity in Fictional Discourse. Ms. Munmun, you can go forward to the presentation.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending this session.
Good morning.
Morning. Please, can I have the PowerPoint presentation? All right, without any further ado, I will start. The title of my thesis is Translinguistic Authenticity in Fictional Discourse. So, background to the study. While there has been much research on translanguaging in academic writing, there has been little work on translingual practices in the literary genre. While the writings of translingual writers, those who write in a language other than their primary tongue, presents a promising area of study, literary translinguism continues to remain under-researched and inadequately theorized. There have been relatively few studies on translanguaging in fiction, and there are not many interpretive paradigm studies on translanguaging techniques in fiction. So the objective of the study, the current research investigates the increasing influence of linguistic diversity in fiction discourse. This research realigns the discourse of translanguaging with literature, notably in the field of fiction. The purpose of this study is to conduct a critical examination of the translingual practices, the textual strategies, a comparative analysis in the literary works Anthology Rasa, Our Lady of Alice Bhatti, and Lion City to find out what motivated these authors to incorporate translingual techniques into their works. Thus, this research is based on one main sociological phenomena, translingual literature. These are the 3 books that were analyzed. Moving on to the research questions. The first research question was, what was the textual realization of translingual practice as depicted in the literary works? Question 2, what textual strategies were employed by the writers of the selected literary works to produce such translingual outcomes, and what are the comparative analysis of translingualism in the 3 literary works? And question number 3, what motivated the authors to incorporate translingual techniques into their work? Significance of the study. This thesis makes valuable contributions to social linguistics and studies in translinguism and literary translinguism. By working within the translanguaging paradigm, this study proposes nuanced discoveries of how translingual practices can be implemented in the discourse of literary linguistic studies. The study builds on Foster's, Poetstongue, and Kelman's Switching Languages and other works of Kelman. This study underscores the significance of translinguistic authenticity in fictional discourse, emphasizing the necessity for authors to utilize their genuine voice in character development and storytelling rather than relying on colonized language. Thus, the study has demonstrated the importance of translanguaging and translinguistic authenticity in fictional discourse. Because no previous research has examined both the strategies and the motivations of authors engaged in literary translinguism, I coined the term translinguistic authenticity to describe why writers employ multiple languages in their writing and the strategies they use to generate dynamism and stylistic refinement, as well as to deliver authentic literary linguistic writings aimed at a translingual audience. I prefer the term translinguistic authenticity over Kelman's literary translinguism because translinguistic authenticity focuses on the actual practices authors employ to demonstrate authenticity in their writings. So this was the literature review and theoretical framework. I'm not going to go through everything, but just to give you an idea of the diagram that was used. I have translanguaging background and definitions, which I further divided into translanguaging practices, translanguaging strategies, and translanguaging motivations. All works of previous scholars in the field have been used and has been described here. Moving on to the methodology. So first focusing on research question 1 and research question 2. Words or phrases not present in the literary work's dominant languages were identified and classed as excerpts, and these excerpts serve as the primary data for research question 1 and question 2. Such words and phrases are often identifiable by the use of italics, while in other situations they were simply added into the text with no obvious aim behind the presence. Research question 1 set out to describe the words that were used and report these from the data sources. Research question 2 focused on getting the bigger picture related to these words. What were the surrounding sentences, context, storyline, characters, and could this information help frame an understanding of the use of translanguaging in the text? Additional data were obtained from authors' spoken discourse obtained through semi-structured interview. That is my research question 3. The purpose of the interview was to investigate authors' own understanding of translinguism, providing a different perspective on the primary data and its analysis in research question 1 and research question 2. I contacted the authors and invited them to participate in an online interview to discuss their work. This is just me interviewing all the authors. They are all very famous authors. One is from Indonesia, one is from Pakistan, and the other is from Singapore, all award-winning authors, and their works are really famous. So research question 1 and research question 2. To address the first two study objectives, I analyzed the novels by reading each one numerous times and identifying relevant instances that demonstrated examples of translanguaging. I used a stage-by-stage approach. Analysis started with a general reading of the novel and notes were made regarding any clear instances of translanguaging, so the researcher developed an understanding of the work as a whole. Translanguaging examples were often identifiable by the use of italics, but in other cases they were just integrated without any apparent intent behind the inclusion. Stage 2 involved a more careful, detailed reading with a view to become immersed in the data and to get into the mind of the author. This is where the initial categorization took place. In stage 3, the research tool table 1, which I will show you shortly, was applied. The novel's translingual occurrences were analyzed using the translanguaging tool that was developed by me in my previous research that was published by John Benjamins. The paper was called Translanguaging in Indian Fiction. This tool takes into account the following variables: which languages or dialects have been used, the linguistic units involved, example words, sentences, phonetic aspects, what is the textual strategy being used, whether or not translation occurs or how is meaning being conveyed, and the pragmatic function and purpose of the language. And this tool I assembled by using famous works done by Blumenlahe, Mixwan, Chanagaraja, and Seba. Stage 4 then involved obtaining an overview of the analyzed data, considering any instances that were problematic and looking for patterns in the data. Stage 5 involved discussion of the analysis with other researchers so that there was no bias. In stage 6, findings were written up, presented in the light of the analysis tool and theoretical framework. Finally, in stage 7, the analysis of the 3 texts was considered together with a description of similarities and differences between the 3 texts. So that was research question 1 and 2. And this was the translinguistic analysis example. This is the tool that I developed, and this is what I considered for research question 1 and 2. For each case, case number, what page number, what is the translanguaging summary, what context was used, linguistic units involved, what strategies were used, what is the meaning of the text, and what is the pragmatic function of the text. For research question 3, what motivated the authors to incorporate translingual techniques into their novels? First, notes were made after each interview to capture the main themes that arose in the interview. In the second stage, transcripts were read, notes were made on general themes emerging from the interview, from the discussion. This is again the immersion process where I'm trying to get into the mind of the author. Open coding took place in stage 3, in which I generated codes freely based on topics or points raised by the authors. In stage 4, the topics or issues raised by the authors were grouped together into higher order headings. Similar ideas were grouped together to reduce the initial number of themes. Stage 5 involved removal of any repetitions or headings that were similar to the others. In stage 6, I again invited a colleague to review. If you can see the example, Ika Natasa has done that quite a bit. 30% of the novel has those kind of instances. But this was the least observed pattern used by her. In anthology rasa, the most common translanguaging strategy is that of lexical borrowing, the use of loanwords from one language into another at intra-sentential level, which means it's happening in the same sentences, and that was 50% of instances of translanguaging. Now, the use of loanwords or lexical borrowing is also called code retention, which was proposed by Mukherjee and Chakrabarti. And Natasa uses these words from another language in a way that fits with Mukherjee and Mohanty's description of making word choices to promote linguistic and cultural diversity. You can see all the examples given. She's using kilt, viewfinder, freshman. She does that quite a lot. Other types of translanguaging depicted in anthology rasa occur within a sentence and involve successive phrases in the 2 different languages. If you can look at case 4, it's in the same sentence, yet there are 2 phrases in 2 different languages. Some occurrences in the novel demonstrate that the approach of translanguaging is culture specific and that translingual behavior often reveals cultural mores. Translanguaging is often used by the authors and their characters since it is difficult to interpret culturally particular phrases in a manner that communicates their actual intent. Anthology rasa is a prime example of how translanguaging can be used in literature to represent the multilingual and multicultural reality of contemporary Indonesian society. Through the use of multiple languages and cultural references, Natasha shows how language is intertwined with identity, culture, and power dynamics. And as such, Anthology Rasa is not only a compelling novel, but also an important contribution to the field of translanguaging studies. Moving on to the next novel that was analyzed, called Our Lady of Alice Bhatti, written by Muhammad Hanif. Now, Hanif chose to write this novel in English but uses Urdu and Punjabi throughout the book to give readers a clear sense of authentic daily experiences in Karachi. A total of 54 unique instances of translanguaging were found in the novel. In Our Lady of Alice Bhatti, although the novel is written in English, the author uses Urdu throughout the book to give readers an authentic sense of daily experience in Karachi. Lexical borrowing, again, was the use of loanwords was the most common translanguaging feature employed. Hanif's novel takes place in Karachi, Pakistan, and one of the ways in which he conveys a sense of milieu is through the use of local Urdu words to describe the food. Many of the examples there would be no equivalent of English translation, and hence he had to use Urdu terms, but also he wanted to be authentic in his writing. So if you look at the graph that has been provided, again, the textual realization, 54 instances, languages used were English, Urdu, and Punjabi, but in question number 2, textual strategies, the most common strategy is that of lexical borrowing. And in this category, we have transcultural terms, we have food, we have clothing, we have religious words, we have honorific titles, and then others. So if you look at some of the terms, I call these transcultural terms. For example, biryani. Biryani, people in Indonesia, we are also familiar with. It has become a transcultural word. Then another such word was bun kebab. There are also items that are not related to food per se, but closely related and consumed as part of daily life. Bidi, which is a cheap type of cigarette, has been used, or bhang, which is weed smoked by Alice, who's the protagonist, the main character in the novel. It is smoked by the father. So these kind of words were used and no translation was provided. Lexical borrowing was also widely used when describing characters wearing clothing such as dupatta, salwar suit, and santosh shawl. As like food, local clothing also lies at the heart of specific cultural groupings, and English translation of many of these items would not be clear and accurate, and hence the author decided to use them in their actual words. For readers less familiar with traditional Pakistani dress, they learn new words and are exposed to new cultural customs. This is like visiting foreign country and relishing one's new surroundings. For readers who share the same culture as described, they will feel like insiders. The story will ring true for them because of these small details. The third category in which lexical borrowing was frequent was the use of religious words. This was one of the main themes of the novel. Culture and religion are closely linked, and it provides a powerful sense of authenticity. If you can see the examples, words like halal, haram, muslas, these are all religious words that were used. There were many examples of the religious-related lexical borrowing, reflecting religion as one of the novel's main themes. In each instance of lexical borrowing, the author enhanced the novel's authenticity, making sure the readers had an intimate inside view of the details of life in the city, the sounds of the languages, taste and smell of the food, and local sights and ways of dressing. An additional category that was used by Hanif is traditional honorific titles and terms of respect, such like Mem Sahab, Parera Sahib. These are words to describe sir and madam. These are examples of lexical borrowing serve several functions in the novel. First, they add a sense of authenticity and realism to the narrative by capturing the nuances of language and culture in Karachi. Second, they create a sense of hybridity and fluidity that reflects the diverse linguistic and cultural identities of the characters. Third, they challenge the dominance of English as a global language and highlight the importance of linguistic diversity and inclusivity. Overall, the use of lexical borrowing as a translanguaging strategy in Our Lady of Alice Bhatti is a powerful tool for conveying the complexity and richness of multilingual experiences. Then another category that I observed was called emotional translanguaging. I published this form of translanguaging in my last paper. And emotional translanguaging, meaning instances of translanguaging where the use of another language helps convey the emotional intensity of a particular situation. In Hanif's text, there are also examples of emotional translanguaging. If you see this, if you look at case 11, text 2, in this example, an old patient in the psychiatric ward of the hospital starts shouting, dardo dawa, which means pain or pain or medicine, indicating the unhappy choice he faces. Readers not familiar with Urdu may not understand what the man is shouting, but are likely to have a general sense of the environment and the challenges faced by the patient and the protagonist in the scene. Once again, the author uses direct speech here to immediately evoke and reveal what the sense of the scene is and what the reader should feel in that moment. So translations are not given, but it is patently clear to readers what is being said. Having the direct excerpts from the different languages makes the evening and its loudness and vulgarity very real. However, ultimately, Hanif uses few examples of translanguaging at a sentence level, seemingly prefer to focus his translanguaging at a lexical level, at a word level. The analysis of the second text revealed no examples of intersentential sentence-level translanguaging, where one complete sentence is in one language followed by another separate and complete sentence in another language. It is striking because if you compare it to Natasa had many examples of intersentential sentence-level translanguaging. It may be the author judged the use of lexical borrowing as a sufficient way of creating an authentic Karachi atmosphere in the novel, and that translanguaging across sentences may have required translations of the Urdu text for non-Urdu speakers, or the loss of meaning for those who are not proficient in both languages. The way in which lexical borrowing was used within sentences, mostly at word level, meant that translations were not readed and the readers could usually infer the meanings with ease. Moving on to the last literary work, Lion City. This is not a novel, but it is a volume of short stories. Lion City, like the other two texts, also contains many examples of translanguaging. Of the three texts, it contains the greatest numbers of unique instances of translanguaging. The book differs from the other two texts. This is a volume of short stories. Lion City is written in English and includes languages from parts of Southeast Asia and other parts of the world. Stories in the anthology contain excerpts from Singlish, Singaporean English, Hokkien, Arabic, Irish, Japanese, Chinese, French, Canadian, making it the most linguistically diverse of the three texts that were studied. Like the preceding analysis, Lion City contains translanguaging that mainly takes the form of lexical borrowing. Words are borrowed or retained. These words, like the words as described in the Alice Bhatti analysis, and are often divided into further themes such as food, religious aspects, clothing, weapons, and plant entries. The frequency of translanguaging also varied from story to story in the collection, with some pieces like Food Paradise, A Day at Terminal Aleph, and Garden had many examples of translanguaging, and the other stories having almost no translanguaging at all. Food Paradise had more than 20 instances of translanguaging, and A Day at Terminal Aleph had 16 of these. Like the other texts analyzed, the author relies most heavily on lexical borrowing at a single word, about 80% of the total instances of translanguaging in the text. However, the text differs from the other two books analyzed in that the variety of languages mixed in English are greater. 10 languages in contrast with the 2 or 3 languages used in the other texts. And the author uses more examples of extended translanguaging, with examples of translanguaging extending for 2 sentences or even involving entire paragraphs. That was 13% of the novel. So here are some food-related lexical borrowing that was used in the text. As you can see, the word copy, kueh, ghee, which is Indian butter, laksa, Malaysian food. So these are all the food items that were used. I've only included some as examples. There were quite a few. And then not only just food, we had some vegetation and plants, as you can see in case 96, case 104, case 112. These descriptives of the local vegetation evoke images of setting in its natural beauty. Readers familiar with these local vegetation and plants are likely to value the authentic detail given by the author, and those less familiar will appreciate the exotic descriptions of plants that may have not heard before. Other culture-specific words that were used in Lion City include weapons. These are the examples of weapons: krisis, parang. These items, like all the other cultural-specific elements, bring authenticity to the story. Similarly, with clothing names, the original names tend to be retained in Lion City, just as they were in the previous texts. You can see the clothing names used: baju, kamban. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these words properly, but they have been used by the authors. Sheng uses translanguaging in a way that extends beyond the insertion of or retention of single words or lexical borrowing. He frequently has characters using larger chunks of non-English speech in their dialogue. If you can look at the example, case 38, and then also case 6, where you can see Pau Carlio has been used, which means Hokkien. In Hokkien means one for all. And the child's direct speech here gives a clear snapshot of exactly what the child has said. It adds authenticity to the story. Shen is bold and creative in his use of translanguaging. if you look at case 31, he uses translanguaging across 2 sentences, interspersing 2 complete Chinese sentences in a paragraph of English. This is very unique to Shen's style. He likes to retain the original language. The direct speech given in Chinese orthography makes readers feel that they are right there. The story feels exciting and rather like visiting a foreign country. And there were several instances where Shen has done this in the novel. In Lion City, Shen also employs emotional translanguaging to explore the complex dynamics of language and identity in Singapore. If you look at case 24 in the presentation and case 67, their emotional translanguaging has been used. Yi Shen's collection of short stories in Lion City is vibrant and compelling, and one of the ways in which the author ensures is through the skilled use of translanguaging. Like the other texts analyzed, the author relies most heavily on lexical borrowing at a single word level. However, the text differs from the other 2 books analyzed in that the variety of languages mixed with English are greater, and the author uses more examples of extended translanguaging, with examples of translanguaging extending for 2 sentences and others involving entire paragraphs. Now moving on to a comparative analysis, similarities and differences. In summary, all 3 books, Anthology Rasa, Our Lady of Alice Bhatti and Lion City, display various forms of translanguaging, a linguistic phenomena involving the fluid exchange of linguistic elements between languages. The principal translanguaging feature observed in all 3 books is lexical borrowing. This involves the use of selected words from one's language with another sentence, creating a mix of languages within a single sentence. In Anthology Rasa, intersentential sentence languaging was the least common pattern observed. The book predominantly featured intrasentential translanguaging through lexical borrowing. The novel Our Lady of Alice Bhatti by Muhammad Anif also primarily employed lexical borrowing. However, unlike Anthology Rasa, this book had no instances of intersentential sentence-level translanguaging. Among the 3 texts, Lion City demonstrated the most unique instances of translanguaging, mainly through lexical borrowing. Similar to the other books, however, it featured emotional translanguaging, which conveys the emotional intensity of a situation. In addition, Lion City stood out because of its use of extended translanguaging that spanned the use of 2 sentences or even entire paragraphs. The book also showed a greater variety of languages mixed with English. Now moving on to research question 3. This one I will try not to read too much, and I will just show it to you briefly. So several themes occurred where after the interviews that took place. All the 3 authors were interviewed, and these are the themes that I came up with. So content analysis of these interviews revealed 9 main themes as follows, and these are from the authors, why they like to incorporate translingual techniques into their works. Theme number 1, duality, being bilingual, assessing 2 different worlds. They like to do that. Theme 2 revealed the strategy of the writer, the task of the writer. In theme 3, they revealed that they like being authentic. Theme 4, I call it uniquely me, proud of who I am, unique partnership between author and reader. Theme 5 discusses the specific strategies that they use. Theme 6, the reason why these authors want to normalize translanguaging. Theme 7, they cannot translate certain words and phrases. Theme 8, playfulness of language, they like to play with language. And theme 9, rejecting colonized language. So these are direct excerpts from the authors from the interviews. I am not going to read them, but if you want to have a quick look, because I don't want to finish my presentation on time today. Yes, so I'll move on. These are all direct excerpts, and that is why I came up with these themes. In the words of the authors, they themselves have explained why they do this, why do they incorporate. If you want to read my thesis in detail and extent, I'll be happy to share it with all of you. So these are direct excerpts from the authors. Being authentic, what makes them add authenticity to the novel, what is the need for being authentic. Uniquely me, proud of who I am, partnership between the author and the reader. Again, there are these all direct quotes from the authors. What are the specific strategies? Strategy number 1, expressing character personalities in the novel. They like to do it by employing translanguaging. And they like conveying a message in the most effective way. And evoking emotions, they feel that it's best done in the language that it should be in. They want to normalize translanguaging. And they agree that certain words cannot be translated or certain passages cannot be translated. Also, some of them like to play with language. They feel they have an intimate relationship with the reader if they play with the language. And then, of course, they do not want to be colonized anymore, and they want to use global language. So moving on to discussion. As no previous research has examined the strategies adapted by authors in literary translinguism, I coined the term translinguistic authenticity to explain why these writers use several languages in their writing, the strategies they employ to create momentum and stylistic refinement, as well as to deliver pleasing literary linguistic writings aimed at a global audience. Translinguistic authenticity should be perceived as a cohesion between the authors and their creative expressions. This is a form of authenticity in which the boundaries between languages and sounds are dispersed, expunged, and recreated, and in which the authors are driven by a desire to be authentic in their linguistic range when it comes to literary works. Translinguistic authenticity refers to the ability of all individuals to use multiple languages in a culturally and linguistically authentic way. It involves the use of different languages, dialects, and idioms in a way that accurately represents the unique cultural and linguistic perspectives of the author. This concept is rooted in the idea that language is not just a means of communication, but it is also a reflection of cultural identity and heritage. Translingual authenticity plays a crucial role in the creation of inclusive and diverse literary works. By incorporating multiple language and cultural perspectives in their writings, authors can create a more accurate representation of the world we live in. Translingual authenticity allows authors to break down language barriers and connect with readers from different cultural backgrounds. It also enables readers to gain a better understanding of different cultures and perspectives, thereby promoting cultural exchange and understanding. These are some of my results that I'm very proud of, and I feel I am one of the first pioneers in the field to find out, especially in literature, in fiction, that which ways can we use translinguistic authenticity. Sorry, can we expand it, please? The use of translinguistic authenticity because the circumstances be recounted demand that authenticity to the storyline and the characters. The use of translinguistic authenticity in the form of loanwords, in the form of lexical borrowing, and also sometimes particularly in the form of, it is used when we are using nouns. The use of translinguistic authenticity to contribute to the cultural linguistic landscape that the writers would like to create and help fashion in their stories. The use of translinguistic authenticity during moments of conflict, which I have called emotional translanguaging, and the use of translinguistic authenticity, particularly for the use of nouns, warranting writers' creative attempts to capture the interplay of languages. So these were some novel findings. In conclusion, sorry, can we expand it, please? I cannot see, I'm old now. Okay. To sum up, all three texts, Anthology Rasa, Lady of Alice Bhatti, Lion City, displayed various types of translanguaging, with Lion City presenting the most unique cases. Lexical borrowing was the primary translanguaging feature across all texts. However, Lion City stood apart due to its incorporation of a wider array of languages and more expansive translanguaging examples. This highlights the flexibility and the adaptability of languages as authors creatively blend linguistic elements to produce engaging, culturally rich narratives that resonate with diverse audiences. Translinguistic authenticity plays a vital role in literature, enabling authors to create a unique framework that resonates with specific ideologies and establishes a clear authorial position. The concept contributes to cultural and linguistic landscapes authors aim to portray, enabling the creation of a vivid and genuine representation of the story setting through the use of various languages or dialects. This approach immerses the reader in the narrative and enhances its authenticity. Translinguistic authenticity also intensifies emotional experience during moments of conflict by employing different languages or dialects. In conclusion, translinguistic authenticity is a crucial tool for writers seeking to offer readers a more authentic and immersive experience. It contributes to the cultural linguistic environment of the narrative, generates emotional intensity, and captures the complex interplay of languages that exist in the world. So some limitations that I faced, one being that the sample size is small, only 3 books have been analyzed. Another limitation of the study is that I have only gotten into the mind of the author. Author's perception has been described. However, in future, I think the perception of the readers and the perception of the translators needs to be considered as well. Additionally, another limitation is that I have only focused on fictional discourse. I think we can study non-fictional discourse as well to get into the mind of the author, the mind of the reader, and also the mind of the translator to have a better understanding of literary translinguism. Some implications for future research. Despite these limitations, this study provides some valuable insights into the use of translanguaging and translinguistic authenticity in fictional discourse. However, future research is needed to explore the use of translanguaging in different contexts and genre. For example, future studies could explore the use of translanguaging in non-fictional discourse or in different languages. Another area of future research is the role of the readers in the use of translanguaging in fiction discourse. While the authors can provide insights into the use of translanguaging, it is important to also consider how readers interpret and respond to these multiple languages. Additionally, future studies could explore the impact of translanguaging or language learning or bilingualism, particularly in the context of fictional discourse. For example, it would be interesting to investigate whether exposure to translanguaging in fictional discourse can have a positive impact on language acquisition and bilingualism. Translanguaging in fictional discourse can provide opportunities for authors to experiment with different linguistic and cultural forms to create new and hybrid literary genres. Understanding the ways in which authors use translanguaging to create innovative and dynamic forms of literary expression can help to inform our understanding of the role of languages in literature and culture. And that's it from me. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Munmun Gupta. Ladies and gentlemen, each of the 5 examiners will ask questions. I have the honor to invite Professor Safnil Arsyad, M.A. Ph.D. as our external examiner to pose the first question. Time is yours, Professor.
Thank you, Luciana, and thank you very much for inviting me this exam and congratulations.
Thank you.
Come to this final exam. Okay, Munmun, you are trying to look at the characteristics of translanguages in fictions.
Yes.
Okay, and from the applied linguistic point of view, you think it will be useful for the teaching of fictions to the students,
Yes.
or Indonesian students who are learning English.
Yes.
Okay, and that's why in your conclusion you mentioned about the fictional discourse.
Yes.
So can you explain to us the concept of fictional discourse, because fiction is imaginary
Yes.
while discourse is authentic.
Yes.
So how to combine these two views?
Thank you. Thank you. That's a very interesting question. Thank you so much. Yes, I do believe that the translanguaging tool that I have used in this study and also used it in my previous study can help foster and improve students' creative writing. Fiction writing, which is also creative writing, ultimately expands the knowledge of a student. And in my entire paper, I am against the use of a colonized language. So through this, I am trying to promote use of multiple languages in creative writing and fiction discourse. And I believe if these students were to use this tool, or if the teachers were to use this tool to educate them, that they can incorporate it and understand how they are using multiple languages, because it is like providing a formula to them that the tool that has been used can be used by them, and they can help foster and better their creative writing. So I do feel that in the future, many educators might be adopting to this style of teaching.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So my next question, translanguage has been debatable
Yes.
so far.
Yes.
From, if we look at it from the applied linguistic or from the teaching of English point of view,
Yes.
because the main purpose of the teaching of English is to train or to educate students to be able to speak the target language, which is English. and it is not expected that the students can mix English with Indonesian or with Urdu or with
Yes.
other languages
Yes.
when they speak English.
Mhm.
So what do you think the benefit of the studies on translanguages in the teaching of English?
So I would say personally, from my own experience, I was an opponent of translanguaging, and now I have become a proponent of translanguaging, because when I started teaching here in Indonesia, I was of the belief that the students will only speak to me in English, and only the mode of communication is only going to be English language. However, I realized that when I started incorporating Bahasa Indonesia to explain concepts, and they started communicating better with me, and their writing became better. Personally, as an educator, I realized that I cannot be so rigid in the use of language. I need to be more open to my students. I need to allow them to express themselves. And the moment I allowed for that, I learned that their English language skills were improving tremendously. And based on that, I also modified my style of teaching.
Okay, my final questions is just suggestion for the future studies.
Mhm.
You should include the perceptions of
Yes.
readers
Yes.
on
Yes.
the mixed language
Yeah,
novels,
yes, yes.
poetry,
Yes,
how they find it, and maybe also the effectiveness, study on the effectiveness of translanguaging
Yes.
in the teaching of English.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Bu Lucia.
Thank you, Pal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Safnil Arsyad. Would Professor Dr. Bambang Kaswanti Purwo, the second examiner, now pose your questions?
Okay, Munmun. So your title is Translinguistic Authenticity.
Mhm.
This is yours, right?
Yes.
You created this term.
Yes, I did. I coined the
So
term.
in the study of fictional discourse, you are the only person in the world.
I think so. I hope
Use
so.
this term,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, now,
Yes.
so this is, I think, your major contribution
Yes. It
in the
is.
study.
Yes.
So instead of using Kalman's terminology, translinguism,
Yes.
I don't know the term,
Yes. Yes.
you did not use the term
Yes.
like Kalman, but use your own. You create your own term.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, but unfortunately,
Okay.
I could only find translinguistic authenticity in your title,
Okay.
in the abstract.
Yes.
And when I tried to search in your dissertation, it only appeared in the abstract, translinguistic or the explanation.
Okay.
But I found out also in chapter 1, in significance of
Yes.
your study.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think this very something important your contribution, right? I think your one major
Yeah.
contribution.
Yes.
You should make it outstanding in
Yes,
your
yes.
dissertation.
Yes.
Don't put it in the only title.
Okay.
Good title one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the significant study chapter 1. But I think need special section
Mhm.
to describe why
Okay.
I could have used Kalman's terminology, but I didn't.
I have
And
used
I have
it.
strong reason why, right?
Yes, sir. After you suggested,
saw
I
it in
changed. I
saw
changed
that
it. Yeah.
In 1.5, 1.4 you explained.
Yes, I have.
Also in the abstract.
I have added it in many places. Discussion being the most important place where I explain it in detail. But I was trying not to give it away till I reached the discussion. I was leading the reader slowly into
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
main finding is going to be. Yes.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was a strategy to keep it till we start going into the discussion section.
My point is helping the readers.
Yes.
Maybe I don't want to just focus on your terminology because
yes.
we have to do something new, right?
Yes. Yes.
We are the
That's
only
right.
person in the world
Yeah.
who does this term.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Help them in
Yes.
better understand
Okay.
your move.
Okay.
Okay. Now my second, so it must be something that you cannot do with Kalman, right? So if you analyze your data using Kalman's terminology, it will work, right? That I think is important to say.
Kalman did not.
In what way doesn't work, and
Yeah.
what make your terminology
Yeah.
is powerful
Yes. Yes.
in doing the analysis in fictional
Okay.
discourse.
Yes.
So I think this very important point for
Okay.
for scholars in this area of study
Yes.
to follow you, to be your followers.
Yes, I agree.
That's my
Yeah.
suggestion. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Ba. Yeah.
The second point is you limit your study is limited to from teacher's perspective, right?
Yeah, author's perspective.
Not from the readers.
Yes,
Yeah?
yes, yes.
Right.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
And you, but if I read, could you open your slide
First slide. Slide.
number
Yeah.
24?
Slide number 24. Yeah.
But 25, sorry, 25. Number 25, slide 25.
Okay, I'll do it.
There are numbers here, 25. The
It's not working. 25. Yeah.
this is number 1.
I cannot do it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I want to look at your analysis in this translation.
Mm-hmm.
So in your data in the novels, no translation at all, right?
Yes.
Not even no glossary.
No.
But so there could be expression that will not be understood by the readers, right?
Yes. Sometimes,
But
yes.
that's what
Yes.
you see. It's
Yes.
the real thing.
Yes.
That's the case.
Yes,
right?
I
You
agree.
study.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the first line here, are not given, right?
Mhm.
Then you say it is patently clear to readers.
Mhm.
How do you know?
Being a reader myself.
Oh, you are a reader.
Yes,
So
I
you talk about yourself, right?
yes.
It's clear to you, but maybe not to us, the readers. Yeah.
Even the languages that I don't speak.
Yeah. So
I'm-
this what is more.
Yeah, yeah.
But you talk about readers here.
Yes.
That's not your concern. It's you said this is your future study. In
Yes.
your,
Yes.
Not
Yes.
not the study. The study from the
Yes.
perspective of the teachers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But then
Yes.
you look at but readers here is meaning you, right?
Yes, but also because of the context that has been provided before and after,
your
it becomes apparent.
Your
Yeah.
interpretation as readers,
Yes.
not the real reader. This is not your study, right?
Yes.
Because you also mentioned in the it is gone
Okay.
in the in the last line.
Yes.
Yeah. And the translation, and readers could usually inform meanings with ease.
Mhm.
This is the question, right? This is future studies.
Yes.
Is
I
this the
agree.
case?
Yes.
But maybe it's for
It is.
you,
It is
as readers.
interesting. Maybe my next
Yeah,
paper.
this
Yeah.
is your interpretation.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
makes it. I think the readers just be interpreted as myself.
Yes. Yes.
This is your future
Yeah.
study.
Next paper after this, yes,
Okay.
will be my next study. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
But
Thank
on the
you.
whole, this is really good work.
Thank
You are the first one who have ventured into this
Yes.
area of
Yes.
study. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bob. Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Bambang Kaswanti Purwo. I now invite the third examiner, Dr. Engliana M.Hum, to ask questions. Time is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Bu Lucy. Okay. Hello, Munmun.
Hello, hi.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I do have some questions
Mhm.
about your theoretical framework,
Mhm.
right? I find this is really interesting because you try to modify, right?
Mhm.
Modify the framework that have been proposed earlier by Bloom and Lahey's,
Mhm.
right? Can you tell us a little bit why did you choose that particular framework
Yes.
among many frameworks that offer views how to dissect or how to examine literary works?
So Bloom and Lahey's work was used because Bloom and Lahey focused on content, form, and use of language.
Okay.
So for my translanguaging tool, a segment of Bloom and Lahey's work has been used, but also Chanagaraja's pragmatic function has been used, and Seba's describing the translanguaging summary, how meaning is conveyed. So all these scholars' works was combined, particularly focusing on Bloom and Lahey's style, because they like to discuss what is the content of the language being used, what is the form of the language, and what is the use of the language. So hence I used it in my study.
Okay, so are you saying that the backbone of your framework is from Bloom's and Lahey?
Yes.
Okay, so all these combinations of concepts that you have for your framework, so can you probably show us in, not show, I mean like explain how does it guide you in trying to get your data in this research?
Sorry, can we go to the translanguaging tool, the methodology? Yes, this one.
Yeah.
So this is the tool that I published in John Benjamin's, and it has received a lot of scholars who are writing papers in the field have started using this translanguaging tool. So if you look at it, this combines works of Seba, Chanagaraja, and Bloom and Lahey's work. All these scholars' work. So it looks at what is the translanguaging summary, context, what are the linguistic units involved, what strategies are being used, what meaning and effects, and what pragmatic function. And this is what I was saying, if students in future would like to incorporate, this is like providing a formula, providing an analysis of how to break the text and look at translanguaging in fiction. This is one way of analyzing. So this is how the tool can be used.
Okay, so if you have time to improve this framework, what would you do in terms of
at the moment,
how to use them?
At the moment, nothing, because I feel it is already quite detailed, and I have used more than 500 examples in my appendices, and each of those examples has been broken down to this in the appendix. So at the moment, I do not want to add anything to it, but I do want to consider, because this is focusing more on the author's perception.
Yes.
I do want to get in the reader's perception.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you said earlier that some of the other research have cite your framework, right?
Yes.
So if they probably have some suggestion about how to use this framework in specific context or particular context, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a student who has used this tool in creative writing and has it then used to why he or she has incorporated certain words and use this tool and published that study. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So yeah, probably you can in the future, if some researchers try to use your framework, and then you can probably have some feedback or comments how they incorporate this framework in their work.
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
One last question. You haven't got the chance to explain to us on your research question 3, right?
Yeah, I did. I didn't go into detail today. Yes.
That's all right.
Yeah.
But I would like to know that what actually are the backgrounds of the authors. You have Natasha, Hanif, and Yisheng, right?
Yeah.
And how do they influence their background in their writing?
Okay, so they're all primarily translanguaging writers who use translingualism in their work. Hanif is a Pakistani author but based in UK. He has won several awards, and he is in my interview with him, he made it very clear that he is going to normalize the use of translanguaging, and he is a proponent of translanguaging.
Oh, okay.
And Ika Natasha, whose works have become Netflix movies and Prime Amazon movies, I have personally published a novel with her, so I know her closely enough, and she also advocates that she represents the urban Indonesian society, where she feels the youth of today does not speak only in Bahasa. They do incorporate a lot of English words, and she wants to cater to that audience, and she wants to be true to that audience. So she also is a proponent of translanguaging. Okay. When I spoke of the concept of translinguistic authenticity, they all agreed to it from the interviews. And then giving you some information about Sheng, he is the most eccentric a person I interviewed, because he likes to use a lot. He likes to infuse a lot of languages. He is now based in Singapore, but he grew up in the US, and he said when he went back and when he was forced to write in the English language, he just did not feel that it was authentic. He said living in Singapore, you have to represent what Singaporean English or Singaporean literature stands for, and he felt the need to not only just include Singlish in his language, but to incorporate everything you see in Singapore. So all these authors were primarily selected because they're all advocates for translanguaging.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Engliana. If Professor Dr. Setiono Sugiharto, the dissertation advisor, would ask any questions, please do so.
Thank you, Dr. Luciana. Munmun, I have two questions. The first is related to the notions of authenticity in your dissertation. The idea of authenticity has been employed, okay, in translingual studies, okay, most recently by Sander Dovjin, okay, in social media. Now, since you are also employing the notions of authenticity in your study, what is the distinctiveness of this notion in very specific research?
The way I differ from Dovjin is because she is still more focused on academic writing, whereas I feel my translinguistic authenticity focuses solely on fiction discourse. The translanguaging tool that I've provided is also focused on fiction. However, I feel it has scope to be incorporated in academic writing as well. So the two ways that we are distinctive from each other is my perception comes from the author's perception that they want to have an authentic voice, whereas her perception comes from a communicative purpose where she feels any communicator wants to be authentic in their choices of language that they speak. That is where the distinctive feature lies, yes.
Thank you. Now, in the discussion section, you claim that your coined notions of translingual authenticity plays a crucial role in the creations of inclusive and diverse literary works, which is absolutely true, I think. Okay. So yeah. And my question is, in what ways can also this notion help create the inclusiveness and diversity in other genres, such as in educational practices and academic writing, of course. Can you elaborate a bit?
Yes, sir. That is another field that I do want to, the next, as many professors have suggested, the next work should be getting into the mind of the readers, getting into the mind of the translators, but also not just limiting myself to fiction. The reason why I focused on fiction is because my love for English literature and then my love for linguistics, I tried to incorporate the two. But in the future, I definitely want to see that how this can benefit, because I am an academic English language teacher and I teach research writing, so I want to see how the study that I have researched and this term that I have created and this how can it be incorporated in academic writing and can be used by students, and not just by students but also by educators. So I'm hoping it gets the recognition it deserves. I'm hoping scholars will see that there is scope to it. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe what is missing from the discussion in your research here is that Prof. Safnil's question is highly relevant, I think, the last question. I would suggest that in your revision later, also responding to Prof. Safnil's question, the use of translanguaging is not haphazard, but it is strategic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is strategic. Now, so the employment of translanguaging practices should be strategic, purposeful, and meaningful. Okay. So it's not just simply because I like translanguaging, I use it. No, but should be strategic. Okay. So we can see from for instance from even in academic writing, African American writer Geneva Switzerman, even in her academic writing, she employs what is called street language, street language, non-standard language in academic writing. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions.
Thank you, Professor Sugiharto. Ibu Yanti, Ph.D., the co-advisor, do you have any additional questions to us?
Okay, thank you, Bu Lucy. Munmun, congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I have minor questions
Mhm.
actually.
Mhm.
The first one is that from your findings
Mhm.
of the first research question, both the Lion City and said the Our Lady of Alice,
Mhm.
they use the authors use emotional
Yes.
translanguaging.
Yes.
And let me first confirm that this is not found in Natasha's
No.
work.
No.
Maybe you want to explain this fact?
Okay.
Yeah.
Natasha is using a lot of instances of lexical borrowing. For example, she will use the word freshman, or she will use a word like kilt, or she's using slangs. But it is not, because if I study the context of when she's using translanguaging, in any of those contexts, it was not an emotional situation where the character had to display a sense of emotion. So she was very direct in her use of translanguaging, whereas the other authors were using it quite a lot in terms of like expressing some emotions and also in comparison, Natasha's story is lighter, whereas the other two stories are more intense, especially Hanif's novel is very intense, so he had to use emotional translanguaging.
So in other words, it relates to the nature of the stories.
Yes,
And
yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. And actually, the second fact that I wanted to clarify as well is that in Lion City,
Mhm.
you said that Sheng
Mhm.
use a lot of translanguaging that span two sentences or even
Yeah.
in the entire paragraphs.
Yeah.
Maybe you want like to
So,
explain this too.
Of all the examples, 16% of the work had uses of extended translanguaging, whereas where you will find 3 sentences in English and then 3 sentences in Hokkien. So he likes to use what I'm calling extended translanguaging. He is not limiting himself just to the use of lexical borrowing. So that's why I said he stands out, because he's not afraid to incorporate languages, and not just in the form of just a loan word or just retaining a quote. He is very expressive in the sense that he will incorporate, even there are instances where he's used English, Hokkien, and then all of a sudden it goes to French. And he's not afraid to, sometimes a whole paragraph. So I did use one example in my,
Right.
yeah.
And do you think it's also related to the, like he's considering the readers?
Yes,
You know,
I
because,
think so.
Singapore is very
Yes,
how
diverse,
do you
yeah.
feel,
He
right?
did say it in his interview a few times that I want to represent Singapore the way it is.
Yeah, so,
So
maybe
yes, yes.
highlight that one.
Yeah.
And then the last minor question is that you have listed like 9 themes, right?
Mhm.
For the reasons,
Yes,
the
yes,
motivations
yeah.
for using translanguaging in these works.
Yeah.
In your opinion,
Mhm.
what are the main three reasons?
I would say normalizing translanguaging would be one of my main themes, and of course staying true to my topic, being authentic. Another one, even though I agree with Professor Setiono when he says it's strategic, it's a creative attempt. As a writer myself, sometimes I'm using it because I'm being authentic, but sometimes I'm using it because I want to use it, because I'm taking in mind that this is for a global reader. So yes, it is strategic, and yet there are moments you want to be authentic. There is a lot of play, or a lot of reasons that come into it. So normalizing translanguaging, being authentic, and third is not complying to a colonized language anymore. So those would be my top 3 reasons, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Bu Lucy.
Thank you, Yanti. Ms. Munmun Gupta, the examination is now over. This open academic session is to examine our doctoral candidate is finished. Permit us now to have a short intermission to assess the examination results of Ms. Munmun Gupta.
Thank you.
Hadirin yang terhormat, para penguji, promotor, co-promotor, dan ketua sidang akan meninggalkan ruangan selama 20 menit. Hadirin kami mohon berdiri. Hadirin dimohon berdiri. Hadirin dimohon duduk kembali. Promovendus, Saudari Munmun Gupta, kami persilakan maju untuk menghadap dekan. Menghadap dekan.
It's okay, no worries. Okay, Ms. Munmun Gupta, having heard the examination board's assessment deliberation of your ratings in your public defense, the total credits earned during your study, the duration of your doctoral studies at this university, I hereby announce that you, Ms. Munmun Gupta, have passed the examination very satisfactorily. I now invite Professor Dr. Setiono Sugiharto, the dissertation advisor, to confer the doctor's degree on Ms. Munmun Gupta and thereupon deliver her laudatory address. His laudatory address. Go ahead.
With the power invested in me as your dissertation advisor, I hereby pronounce you Doctor of Linguistics with all the rights and honors pertaining thereto according to the extant academic traditions. In evidence of your promotions, I present you with the doctor's diploma which you have obtained with great diligence. I wish you great success in your future career. I now want to make a few personal observations about your work so far. Dr. Munmun Gupta, with a strong commitment and painstaking efforts in completing your dissertation research, you can finally earn the degree of Doctor of Humanity in Applied Linguistics. Dr. Yanti, my fellow promoter, and I, your promoter, have the privilege today to congratulate you with this great academic achievement. Congratulations on your accomplishment as the 52nd doctor graduated from the doctoral program in Applied English Linguistics at Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia. Conducting research on translinguistic practice in fictional discourse is not an easy feat, as you need to struggle with and to grasp the emerging and novel concepts related to the topics. But your patience and interest about the topic has enabled you to persevere in completing the research. Needless to say, your research has helped throw an important light into the complexities of translingual practice in literary works. In a nutshell, your research has expanded and enriched the perspective and insights deriving from the previous studies on the similar topic. Now that you have accomplished and defended your dissertation, Dr. Yanti, your co-promoter, and I hope that all the academic contributions you have made will be of significance to policymakers, curriculum designers, language teachers, students, and societies at large. We also hope that you can continue the research traditions you experienced during your study in the doctoral program for the sake of enlightening and inspiring your colleagues, students, and most importantly, the communities at large. Finally, may these occasions be a moment of happiness and celebrations to your family and colleagues. We would like to share our happiness with the officials from BINUS Nusantara University if they are present here. Your husband and your children. They are not here. Okay. They must be proud of your accomplishment. Dr. Munmun Gupta, we wish you best of luck for your future contributions to the field of applied linguistics. Thank you.
Dr. Munmun Gupta, let me also on behalf of the examiners offer you our heartfelt congratulations with your academic achievement. I now invite you to say a few words to the assembly.
Sorry, I'm using my phone because I did not want to miss out what I wanted to say today. Thank you everyone for being present here today. Today, as I stand before you to reflect on my PhD journey, a significant chapter in my life that has been filled with challenges, growth, and ultimately a great sense of achievement. When I embarked on this journey, I knew it would be demanding, but I could have not anticipated the depth of the intellectual and personal transformation it would bring to my life. The pursuit of a PhD is not merely gaining expertise in your field. It is about developing resilience, perseverance, and the ability to push through the boundaries of knowledge. Yet with these privileges came moments of doubt, frustration, and countless of revisions. But I could have not done it without the support of my mentors, my advisors, colleagues, friends, and family. Your encouragement has been a constant source of inspiration, so thank you for that. As I stand here today, I am filled with a profound sense of gratitude for the opportunities that have been afforded my way because of my PhD journey and the knowledge that I have gained. In closing, I am reminded of the words of Nelson Mandela, who once said, "It is always impossible until it's done." Today, I stand as a testament to those words, keeping my PhD journey in mind. My journey has been a testament to the power of perseverance, resilience, and passion, and a belief that with dedication, even the loftiest of goals can be achieved. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Hadirin yang kami muliakan, sidang ujian promosi telah selesai. Dekan kami persilahkan untuk menutup acara sidang.
Ladies and gentlemen, this doctoral degree ceremony has come to an end. Therefore, I declare the assembly closed.
Hadirin yang kami muliakan, dekan, para penguji, promotor, dan ko-promotor akan foto bersama dan memberi ucapan selamat kepada Dr. Munmun Gupta dan keluarga sebelum meninggalkan ruang sidang. Kami persilakan. Hadirin dimohon berdiri.